I have Matt Stevens, who was the project lead of this Strengthening the AP Accounting Expertise project. So the first question I have for you, Matt, is what opportunity presented itself for the improvement?
Recently this year, among the AP accounting teams, we saw an opportunity to start bringing the team members closer together. We had noticed that some of our processes had become siloed. People were kind of working separately on their own teams, and we really wanted to bring the accounting teams back together. And we also wanted to look at any gaps in our processes and in our documentation. And so by getting everybody's unique perspective and take on our various processes, we were able to put together several teams that were able to implement new process updates, improve our documentation, and to move the teams forward together.
So now we have Allison Stone, who was the project sponsor of the Strengthening the AP Accounting Expertise project. So Allison, first question. For this, what opportunity presented itself for improvement?
Okay, sure. So in accounts payable over the last year, we've had a lot of turnover, particularly in our accounting function, and that really triggered a need for some training and some more structure and standardization to our process. We had some gaps due to the turnover and some communication breakdowns between the team, and so that's what really triggered the need to kick off this project, which Matt Stevens led.
Today I have Don Hutchinson, who will give us an organizational perspective on the Strengthening the AP Accounting Expertise project. So the first question I have for you today is, what opportunity presented itself for this improvement, and what do you think triggered this need?
Okay, so I think looking at it from my team's perspective, my accountants, we had a rotation. So I think that there was a lot of training needs that needed to happen. I think that there was a disconnect maybe between my accountants and some of the other accounting functions within the department. So I think that that's kind of what was driving that, and needing a better relationship between knowledge and relationship probably between all of the accountants in the organization.
Today I have Elisa Leon, who was a member on the project team for Strengthening the AP Accounting Expertise project. So the first question I have for you today is, what opportunity presented itself for improvement, and what really triggered the need?
Well, while I was working on this project, I worked very closely with Matt Stevens, and we started discussing our weekly reconciliation processes, and we noticed that each team on our floor was doing it differently. So Matt got the wonderful idea to go ahead and streamline the process and make a template, which ended up saving us time, which reduced our AP trade reconciling items.
So the next question we have for you is, what steps were taken to really improve this process?
So the first thing we wanted to do was we wanted to get everybody's eyes on the various processes between the teams and find differences. So we definitely identified some processes that they were the same process among our different teams, and we were doing them differently. So we got everybody's perspective, and we found a way to completely standardize these processes among the different teams using a common set of templates. And the other thing on the documentation side was there wasn't really good documentation for these different disparate processes. So we created documentation for this new standardized process that was very in-depth and detailed. So when somebody new was coming into the organization, they could study this documentation and really figure this process out in its entirety.
So what steps were taken to improve the process?
Sure. So the team, it was a pretty large team because we included all of the AP accountants in AP, so I think that was probably about 20 people. So Matt Stevens, who led the project, divided the team into 3 subgroups, which focused on 3 main areas. So it was lessons learned, so what could we do better each month, process documentation, both for One Arrow and P2P, and then also training was a big piece of this. Another piece, it wasn't a formalized piece, but another piece of this project was also team building and communication.
So the next question we have for you today is, what was the overall impact on the organization due to this project?
Well, with this process, the change, we were able to cut our time spent each week reconciling, which of course saved the corporation hundreds of thousands of dollars because we had 4 or 5 individuals doing these reconciliations, and also it produced more accurate output weekly.
What impact do you see going forward on other groups due to this adaptation?
I think that the project, because the scope was so large, I think that they came up with kind of a good prototype model that I actually used on one of my projects. I think dividing it out and having subgroups and sub-leads handle different pieces of the project was a really good idea that I've even developed or have used now in some of my projects. So I think they did a great job with the way that they approached all of the information and everybody working together and what have you. So I think they did a good job.